sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome along to Late Edition. It's a one-stop shop for all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and breaking right now.
And, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
So, the King controversially referred to illegal immigration as irregular immigration. Emmanuel Macron is about to blame Sir Keir Starmer for the migrant crisis. That's what the Telegraph is leading with. Meanwhile...
Aimer notre culture, nos chevaux, et qu'aucun autre pays n'a eu le privilège de la recevoir aussi souvent que le nôtre.
We've rolled out the red carpet, we're treating him like a little prince, and the French president didn't even have the courtesy of really bothering to speak English to his hosts in their own language in Windsor Castle. Why are we bending over backwards for this guy? Meanwhile...
handful of middle-class women of a certain age.
Oh, yeah. Gregg Wallace has been sacked by the BBC as a whopping 50 new allegations have come to light. However, Gregg Wallace denies everything against him, says he's been cleared of the most serious ones, and he's not going quietly. More drama at the BBC. Top lineup for you this evening. GB News presenter Alex Armstrong, everybody's favourite lefty Matthew Talbot, and GB News contributor and comedian it's Steve N. Allen. But first, let's get those news headlines with Sam Francis.
Patrick, thank you, and a very good evening to you. Just after 11 o'clock, King Charles has told a state banquet tonight in Windsor that the UK and France stand ever closer and praised joint efforts to tackle Channel crossings. The King addressed the French president and guests in both English and in French, calling for action on irregular migration. Sir Mick Jagger and the Princess of Wales, in her first state banquet since her cancer diagnosis, were among those attending. Earlier, Emmanuel Macron told Parliament the UK and France must face illegal migration with humanity, solidarity and with firmness. He and Sir Keir Starmer are set to meet again tomorrow. Gregg Wallace has been sacked as presenter of MasterChef after an independent inquiry into allegations of serious misconduct. That decision comes as 50 new claims have emerged, including accusations that Wallace groped colleagues and exposed himself to junior staff. He denies those allegations and, in a statement, said he's been cleared of the most serious claims, but admitted some past comments have been inappropriate. Grace Dent and John Turode will front the next series of MasterChef as the broadcaster awaits the full findings of that investigation. The Horizon IT scandal had disastrous consequences for sub-postmasters and may have contributed to at least 13 people taking their own life. That is according to the findings of a new public inquiry. The report concluded that post office bosses maintained the fiction that the Horizon software was always accurate, even as innocent staff were wrongly prosecuted. It found that victims and their families should now be eligible for compensation. The Post Office has issued an unreserved apology, calling it a shameful period in its history. Junior doctors in England have voted in favour of taking strike action over a pay dispute. According to the BMA today, resident doctors, otherwise known as junior doctors, are seeking a 29% pay rise. There are fears, though, the industrial action will now cause prolonged disruption in the NHS, with walkouts potentially lasting until January next year. Number 10 says that resident doctors have already had a pay rise of almost 29%, adding that it was disappointing that they want to strike. And digital bank Monzo has been fined more than £20 million after it accepted customers claiming to live at addresses including Downing Street, Buckingham Palace and even its own office. An investigation found Monzo failed to properly verify addresses, allowing risky and non-UK customers to open accounts using clearly fake details. The regulator has slammed the bank for falling far short of what's expected. The breaches occurred between 2018 and 2022, but Monzo says it has since overhauled its systems. That's the news on GB News. Do join us again from the newsroom 9:30 tomorrow morning. For now, though, let's get more with Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Late Edition. Let's get stuck straight into Wednesday's front pages. The Independent, they've got that picture there of the state visit of Emmanuel Macron. Macron, we must shoulder the burden of keeping Europe safe. The president urges Starmer to share the responsibility for regional peace and fixing the Channel migrant crisis. A lot of you will be very angry at this. We'll talk about it shortly. The Metro, 13 suicides links to the Post Office scandal. This is the judge's scathing Horizon report revealed. 59 more contemplated suicide over the harrowing prosecutions and slow justice. The I paper. UK pension triple lock. The end is in sight. Be a brave move for Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves to end that triple lock based on everything else that they've already done. How would you feel about that at home? The Times. Labour rules out paying doctors more to hold strike. This is the story that the British Medical Association has backed 6 months of strike action based on a 55% turnout. This means that junior doctors, or resident doctors as they're now called, will be walking out despite receiving a 22% pay rise last year. The Daily Telegraph. Emmanuel Macron to blame the Prime Minister for small boat crisis. The picture story there is of Princess Catherine, who looked absolutely sensational earlier today, throughout the day. Tiara there, fit for a princess, they say. It's great to see her looking so well and back on the world stage, especially next to William, who many people think might be well, maybe they kind of are looking forward to them being on the throne. But anyway, Emmanuel Macron saying that Starmer must tackle the UK's pull factors. So Keir Starmer needs to do more to cut down on benefits and housing, etc. for illegal migrants. Finally, we might agree with something Emmanuel Macron has to say. The Guardian, limit trials by jury to save justice system from collapse. Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick will be on my show at 10 p.m. tomorrow talking about this. Do you think it's right to remove the number of jury trials? They say it'll speed up justice. Some people will say, well, you know, you want to be there with a jury of your peers, don't you? The Sun have gone for a more, I suppose, showbizy story. Sacked Gregg, it's war. BBC reveals 50 new claims against Gregg Wallace. He says that the probe led to him having a heart attack and that it won't go quietly. So lots to go out there. The Daily Express, they also carry the Post Office Horizon story. 13 lives likely lost due to the Horizon scandal. And they go for the Daily Mail. Post Office has blood on its hands over the toll of 13 suicides. Interesting to see how many newspaper front pages have decided to go for the Horizon scandal, the Post Office scandal, over overtly leading on the Macron state visit. But the Daily Mail's comment piece by Sarah Vine, who's their, I think, main columnist. Starmer is like Monty Python's Black Knight, barely successfully able to nip at Macron's ankles. Well, on my panel this evening, we have got GB News presenter Alex Armstrong, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett, and GB News contributor and comedian Steve N. Allen. So we're going to talk, I think, in a second about the Daily Telegraph's front page, but I just thought we'd refresh our memories of how this state visit has gone so far. So, yeah, today was that state visit. Emmanuel Macron, the man who has been helping illegal migrants invade Britain, he touched down, and as the plane doors opened, of course, all eyes were on Brigitte and Emmanuel. Would there be a repeat of their Vietnam incident? Not quite. She didn't punch him in the face this time, but this was awkward. Oh, they're not getting on, are they? They're not getting on. But, of course, Prince William and Princess Catherine looked absolutely amazing. Some fears for King Charles, as his eye appeared to be a bit bloodshot, but apparently he's absolutely fine, so that's great news. And the trip got off to a bad start with some slightly odd choices of music.
Must just say, as the president, you may be able to hear on my microphone here, as the president exited the plane, the bands, one of the bands here, the military bands at my position in Windsor, has struck up the opening number of Wicked, the musical, which is a slightly ironic piece of music to play as the President of France steps foot on British soil at the start of his French state visit.
Yeah, Wicked, defying gravity in the background there. President Macron then committed a grave social faux pas. You do not walk in front of our king. You do not do it. Anyway, onwards to Parliament, where President Macron had some good news for us.
The run-up to the 1000th anniversary of the birth of William the Conqueror. France will loan the United Kingdom the Bayeux Tapestry.
Great. He's sending us the Bayeux Tapestry. Unfortunately, he's also sending us loads of Eritrean and Sudanese men across the channel. But on that note, he is, of course, here to help Sir Keir Starmer out by signing a new one-in, one-out migrant deal. So what's he actually said about that?
Hope for a better life elsewhere is legitimate, but we cannot allow our country's rules for taking in people to be flouted and criminal networks to cynically exploit the hopes of so many individuals with so little respect for human life. France and the United Kingdom have a shared responsibility to address irregular migration with humanity, solidarity and firmness. The decisions that we will take at our bilateral summit will respond to our aims for cooperation and tangible results on these major issues.
Right, so it's not particularly robust, is it? And then he dropped a hint about a return to freedom of movement.
Let's not allow the channel to grow wider. Let's work together in order to facilitate the exchange of students, researchers, intellectuals, artists. This is so important. Let's allow our children to have the same opportunities as the one we had.
He hasn't had any kids, does he? But anyway, the King told President Macron there are no borders between our countries. Number 10 has refused to say whether or not it agrees with that statement. He then, this trumped-up little Napoleon, decided to stand in our parliament and tell us that we should recognise Palestine as a state.
Together, we are aware that a political way out is crucial. And I believe in the future of the two-state solution as a basis for regional security architecture, which will enable Israel to live in peace and security alongside its neighbours.
And gosh, he even brought up adolescence.
It is the same challenge we are facing when it comes to digital age, restriction online, and protecting our children from social media and screens, an issue brutally brought to the light 3 months ago by the British series Adolescence.
Grief. And just look at this ridiculous spectacle. President Macron is plundering British fishing waters during his presidency. 100,000 illegal migrants have swarmed into Britain. He's allowed them to do that. And, well, our members of Parliament did this. Yeah, OK. And then there was this banquet at Windsor Castle, wasn't there?
Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
Well, there we go. OK, time to bring in my panel. Steve, I'll start with you. At the front of the Daily Telegraph tomorrow goes with Emmanuel Macron to blame the Prime Minister for the small boats crisis. I'm not sure this trip has been that much of a success for Keir Starmer, has it?
It's not looking that way. The only way they could turn it around, you've got to have some sort of actual thing at the end, something you can go, look, we've got this new treaty. I'm quite in favour of this one-in, one-out thing. I'll tell you why. It's been about 20,000 boat crossings that have happened this year. If we had the one-in, one-out policy, that number changes to around 20,000. So it's going to make a huge impact if we can just manage to bring this in. What an absolute win. Because the number is the thing everyone talks about. They've got the one system that isn't... they could claim they've already changed every migrant for one of the new ones, and we wouldn't know, would we?
No.
There's not like a system of checking. It's bizarre. When he says that there's no border between France and the UK, I mean... There is. There's like a physical one. He's thinking of Germany. It's easy to get confused with that. Although when he says, don't let the channel get wider, I thought that was going to be like a global warming thing. That's sea levels rising. Greta could get involved in that. It's just been an amazing... The short amount of time, but so many news stories coming out of this. Like he's going to blame Keir Starmer. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. This is something that people have said for ages, but this could prove the old thing right. You say something in a French accent, all of a sudden it's kind of sexy. And he's going to be like, you know what? Maybe there are too many pull factors. Nice.
I love it.
Like that, Emmanuel.
I love it. Alex, this is... Yeah, go, we'll stick with the Telegraph on this. So Emmanuel Macron, it's interesting to see these two stories side by side at the front of the Telegraph. The bottom one there, so the Bay of Tapestry is on its way to England, which people like George Osborne and a load of kind of lovey cultural types are going to be like, well, this trip's been a triumph, hasn't it? Actually, it looks as though we're not going to get a one-in, one-out deal with the French, which would already be awful, because there are too many... They get too many benefits here in Britain.
Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Emmanuel Macron is right about that. He's absolutely right. This is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for illegal migrants. They know it, and we paved the way for them. They know they can just get a little bit over that bit of the water, and then they're here forever. We can't get rid of them. The European Court of Human Rights won't send them home either. They know that this is the place to be. And to get that, the way he stood up there and said, oh, we're going to loan you. We're not giving it back to you, because this is something that English people supposedly created, the Bay of Tapestry, by the way. We're not giving it back to you. We're going to loan it to you for a little while. Oh, thanks for that $500 million, by the way. Yeah, thanks for that. On top of that, there's a few boats of people coming over today. Should have them as well.
But that makes sense, because the channel people will bring it across, and then the ones we send back will say, go back with it in like a year's time, surely. That's the beauty of the loan.
The only flaw in your system is that they're not going back, Matthew.
Maybe so.
So on this, I mean, we have given the French something like £771 million, which, as I understand, has not come up in conversations yet. And Emmanuel Macron is saying that actually we need to shoulder our burden when it comes to the migrant crisis. I mean, aren't we paying for them to do a bit more? And but he is right about Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer has got a problem because they repealed the illegal migration bill, which would have meant that no one who landed in Britain illegally could ever be considered for asylum, didn't he? So now Emmanuel Macron has basically asked them to do what the Tories were doing.
Yeah, the problem is, is in Rwanda?
Well, not so much Rwanda, but in terms of things like never being able to claim asylum, for example, or never being able to get social
housing. It was a Sunak policy, wasn't it? It was a Sunak policy that said that basically if you came here illegally, you could never claim asylum.
The problem with that is the law. The law doesn't say these people are illegal, and I know that will annoy people, but that's probably why King Charles said it. King Charles is probably more on the liberal side of things of this sort of argument anyway. But as I've said repeatedly about what I believe is the answer with processing centres and offshore processing centres, the law is very clear that the only way to claim asylum in a country is to be in that country. So that is why people arrive at irregular means. That's the problem. So, therefore, you maybe need to look at changing the law in the 45 Convention. I actually think Macron's asks are actually OK. I wouldn't have a problem with them. It's to tackle the black market in be it access to work through the 0 hours sort of market, delivery riders and whatnot that we've seen more recently.
He's leapt on that, by the way, just to say this is interesting, because Emmanuel Macron or his aides have leapt on the recent reports that people can come here illegally and work as delivery drivers. He says that it's helped to create an El Dorado view of Britain, a city of riches where it's easy to work. So Emmanuel Macron is telling us to stop letting illegal migrants work for Deliveroo.
Yeah.
It's pretty embarrassing, this, isn't it?
Well, at least we were saying it first, though. It's not like he's come here with a good idea and we're like, wow, no one ever thought of that before. It might be interesting. This is what it's like in relationships. Surely we've all been in that situation where you have some row and the other half won't listen to you until one of their friends says the same thing and they go, oh, I've got this new idea. And then they listen. It could be the same thing. If Macron says it, then maybe Starmer will listen. And on that point about... because people always say no human can be illegal. This is why probably the King used the phrase irregular migration rather than illegal. That's not what you're saying, is it? If someone breaks a law, you're not saying the person is illegal. If you do 40 and a 30, you're not an illegal person, but you've broken the law. You can hold that thought in your head. So the idea of...
They wouldn't like it if you said immigrants breaking the law, criminal immigrants. I mean, what other way are you going to say it? Irregular migration is not a very good way of describing it. It's just lefty nonsense.
It sounds like they've not had enough fibre, doesn't it? Irregular. They're coming over here for the Weetabix.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to be asking Anne Widdecombe about all of this, apparently. That's all right, why not? Anne Widdecombe is ready and waiting in the wings. See what she makes of the French president, firstly not speaking much English, I think, which was a little bit rude in Windsor earlier on. King Charles's comments we were talking about there about irregular immigration and what we can expect from this supposed one-in, one-out deal. It's Patrick Christys tonight, and it's late edition.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Vegetarians now have a greater desire to wield power more than their meat-eating counterparts. I mean, you like a sausage, don't you, Biggins?
I like a sausage, but I have gone off meat per se, funnily enough, as I'm getting older. I think there are, you know, it takes a lot of eating a piece of meat, if you pardon the expression.
And the older you get, the more you find that it takes a lot of meat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I must admit, I have more of a conscience about eating meat as I get older.
Yeah.
And that's a fondness of animals brings that. And if you ever go on Instagram and you look at cows and horses and pigs,
they're wonderful.
They're all affectionate and
know,
incredible.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And there we are, putting it into our mouths and eating it.
What do you think about the move to enforce vegetarianism on people, though? Because especially in schools and some universities, there's this trend for Meat-Free Monday, where there's this enforced absence of meat on children. I think it's ridiculous. Let kids do what they want, to be honest with. Within reason, obviously, a healthy diet, da-da-da-da-da. But no, I think, you know, I don't eat meat, the husband eats meat. It's not an issue. Eat what you want. But I think the fact that they're trying to force this into schools, look, let kids experiment, give them a vegetarian option.
Yes,
let
yeah,
them
I know
see
schools do that.
Just options.
It has just become political, and also there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I know children are often told that eating meat is terrible for the environment, but importing avocados thousands of miles is also terrible for the environment.
But also, I mean, a lot of vegetarian meals, certainly processed vegetarian meals, have got a load of salt and fat and sugar in them, so they're actually worse for you than eating a lean piece of meat.
I think the tide is turning now, because the new trend amongst young people, particularly young men, is protein. Chicken, breasts, tuna. That's the new trend, to get as much protein in them as possible. It's very difficult to do when you're vegetarian.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. So, Lord Tebbit, one of the most influential Conservative politicians of the Thatcher era, has died at the age of 94. He entered Parliament in 1970, serving as party chairman, held several senior cabinet roles. Downing Street says he was a major figure in British politics who will be missed by many. A tribute to him is already on the front of the Daily Telegraph, I believe, as well. We're joined by former Prisons Minister Anne Widdecombe. And before we talk, Anne, in a bit more detail about that state visit by Emmanuel Macron, I thought we would just start this segment by getting your views on Lord Tebbit. So what do you make of his legacy?
Well, of course, he's one of the few politicians who leaves behind a terrific legacy. He and Thatcher, between them, changed Britain completely in the 1980s. I remember Norman very well. I was at the conference when he said that his father didn't sit down and complain. He got on his bike and looked for work. I think he will be greatly missed. Of course, the big tragedy is that we didn't get all that we might have got out of Norman because his wife was very severely, she was paralysed in the Brighton bomb. And thereafter, he gave the priority to her, which was quite right. Of course, he should do that. But it did mean that politics missed out, I think, quite a lot.
And I think he represents a certain era of politician and maybe, dare I say, a certain calibre of politician that sadly no longer exists, Anne.
Oh, certainly the calibre of politician now, as I've observed several times on your programme, is abysmally low. He was from an era when, by and large, there was a much higher calibre of politician, and he stood out because he was one of those politicians that always said what he thought, rather than what he thought you might want to hear him say.
Yes, indeed. OK, well, and we'll whiz ourselves on to what's on quite a few of the front pages, if you don't mind. I'm very keen to get your take on this. Emmanuel Macron, I mean, I'll just pick one at random here. I was going to go for the Independent. I mean, Macron, we must shoulder the burden of keeping Europe safe. It appears he's, supposedly we're going to get this one-in, one-out deal. Well, what do you make of what you've seen from this state visit so far? Is it good? Is it a little bit simpering, maybe, towards Emmanuel Macron?
It's probably a bit too early to say, but certainly the attitude of this government has been simpering towards the EU in general. And it does appall me that we're still trying to rely on France to solve the problem of the boats, when, we have given them huge amounts of money, hundreds of millions of pounds, and they've done absolutely nothing for it. And I mean, they're often photographed, French policemen, just standing on the shore watching as the boats leave France. So, I mean, I think Starmer's approach is generally naive. I think the one out, one in, I don't understand at all. It means if you return an illegal migrant to France, you have to take another one. I mean, I don't mean another illegal one. You have to take a legal one. So, one in, one out means no progress at all. So I think it's ridiculous. But there is one thing that Macron has said which is right. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Macron actually has got it right when he says that the fault lies with us because we are one of the most attractive countries in the world, because we're the easiest country in which to disappear. We don't practice detention. We don't have national identity cards. We do have a flourishing underground economy. And that combination is what attracts people to come here, because the message that Britain sends out is, if you come to Britain, you're very unlikely to be removed. That is the message that goes out, and until we reverse that message, we will lose this battle.
How embarrassing is it for Sir Keir Starmer to hear that from, so that is an outsider's perspective of Britain. We know that the Americans think it as well, that's one thing, but Emmanuel Macron is kind of like supposedly Keir Starmer's big mate. Keir Starmer certainly wants to be his mate. How embarrassing for Sir Keir Starmer is it to hear that?
Well, all I can say is some mate, given that he hasn't helped at all with the votes crisis. But yes, of course it's embarrassing, but to be fair, to be perfectly fair, it isn't just this government which has made Britain so attractive. It has been a magnet for illegal migration for decades, and it has been the fault of successive governments. I've been saying this, Dashid, since 1999, when I was Shadow Home Secretary, that we make it too easy to disappear. I've said it time and time again, and successive governments, Conservative, Labour, Coalition, anything you like to name, just have done nothing about it.
Well, let's draw a line under it there, and thank you. Tremendous to see you, as ever. Anne Widdecombe there, former Prisons Minister. Should we just remind ourselves of one of the statements that King Charles made during his speech to Emmanuel Macron in Windsor Castle earlier on?
These challenges know no borders. No fortress can protect us against them this time. Instead, the answer lies in partnership. And we, France and Britain, must help to lead the way.
Right, meanwhile, Emmanuel Macron, Steve, stood there and spoke for, like, probably about 80% of his speech just in French. The King intermingled French and English, didn't he? I thought that was very offensive.
I tell you what the King did that was excellent, though. He did the nod. You know, when someone's speaking a language, you have no idea what they're doing. You just go, yep, oh, yeah. You just follow the intonation, don't you? A few couple of nods in there. Unless he's saying, like, Uela Syndicate Initiative, no one's got a clue what's happening, you know. He should have pitched it all at GCSE level, and we could have had a great time. He'd be asking where the swimming pool is in Windsor, and it would have been great. There is something a bit cheeky about that, isn't there? Like, we know what he can do. And it's you know, it's speaking, sure he's got his home audience, but he gets an opportunity to speak to them loads. He could rock up and just do it in English. There is something that speaking in a foreign language around other people is a bit like whispering. It should be met with the same judgment, shouldn't it? If you think it's OK to whisper near the King, then that's what we...
It does make you wonder, on that point, though, whether he was playing to the French audience. Yeah. He's very unpopular in France. He wants all those clips up of him speaking French. If he speaks English, it doesn't have the impact, does it? Yeah. So, yeah, I think in that part, smart politics from him.
Matthew, I'll put this to you, right? So this is what Suella Braverman tweeted. Oh, dear. This is before Emmanuel Macron stood up and spoke in French at that dinner.
Are you sure you want to do
that?
Is it Ofcom regulated?
So much for longtemps cordial. He's just criticised the British people and our historic cry for freedom from the failing EU. He would recognise Palestine as a reward for terrorism and attempts to impose his left-wing anti-Israel bigotry on us. He won't lift a finger to help stop the boats in the Channel when he has the power to solve it. The sooner he leaves the UK, the better. Suella Braverman there.
Yeah, well, I mean, her career took a bit of a nosedive the last couple of years. She's got to do something to sort of keep herself relevant and in the headlines. I mean, who is she? Who cares? She's just a Tory backbencher these days. I couldn't really care less what Suella Braverman has to say.
But she is right, though, isn't she?
Suella Braverman,
she's right. Yes,
I don't know if she's right. She's right more often than she's wrong, personally. No, I think, you know, to be honest, I don't care. I think part of me would be a bit like the King and think, I ain't got a clue what he's on about, because somebody else now... That'd be the more annoyance thing, I think. But, you know, whatever. I think it's minor. And like Alex said, I think it's more of a point to the French audience, the same way Netanyahu spoke in English the other week, purposely for an American audience.
OK, great. Let's bring the times up, because Emmanuel Macron is calling for a relation spéciale to end the reliance on the US. This is their side column there, next to that picture of Wills and Kate looking absolutely fantastic. Britain and France are dangerously dependent on the US, President Macron has warned, as he called on the UK not to stay on the sidelines of Europe. I mean, he's basically decided to come to Britain and try and sort our country out, hasn't he?
Do you know what, though? This might be the second thing he said that's right. Well, he said three things that's right tonight. Yeah. One is that maybe we need to, you know, sour the milk so we're less of a pull factor for the UK. He's also said, stop hitting me, you're meant to be my wife. He was right about that. and then he said, do you know, that original video is so good. It looks like Eric Morecambe, you know, he used to his arm out the curtain. Yeah,
well, at least it was quite a ladylike slap, though. You know, can you imagine if she'd have clocked him? Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't be a ladylike one. I don't know what you're trying to imply.
No, nothing.
But in this... The idea of it is a risk. We've talked about this before. We can't have a system where our defence is entirely reliant upon the US because we're not in charge of who they get to vote in. Europe needs to be able to defend itself. We should pay more. We should have the kit to defend ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, but so he's urging us not to stay on the outside of Europe, which is fascinating, really, Alice, because he did his best to sabotage our Brexit deal, plunder British fishing waters, steal our vaccines during the pandemic, and all sorts of stuff. But now he says, oh, you know, welcome.
Welcome to my French Parliament. It's all in your French. I mean, the guy's had a right clue for us the last few years, hasn't he? I mean, he's just got away with murder, political murder, really, hasn't he? I mean, we've got them. They're all applauding him because he's sending over a bit of cloth to us. It's just bonkers. The bloke, I think Suella Braverman absolutely nailed it. And then for tell us to end our reliance on the most powerful country in the world is just another blow, and then someone's going to go, oh yeah, let's tie ourselves to that terrible failing EU.
Well, just quickly on this, Matthew, were our politicians right to stand up, give him a standing ovation in the House, near the House of Commons earlier today, based on Emmanuel Macron's track record of essentially trying to undermine Britain at every turn?
I think it's just tradition and respect. If I was an MP, I'd have done it today. It would also pain me, but I would also give President Trump the same respect, really, because they've come to speak to us, give their take.
Do you think all the Labour Party backbenchers will do that when he comes?
I hope so, because as much as he's shown himself...
Hope is not a very strong...
No, but I think those that are really bothered won't go.
Yeah. We've got to move on. We've got to move on. Coming up, we've got loads more coming your way. Get a load of this.
Handful of middle-class women of a certain age.
Oh, Gregg Wallace. Well, it looks like he's been sacked. He says he's not going quietly. Big developments on this story. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny weather is on the way for virtually all of us, but overnight it will be gloomy and damp in the northwest. Clear spells elsewhere, turning increasingly warm through the day on Wednesday as high pressure builds in. However, over the top of that high, we do have some weak weather fronts pushing into northwestern parts of the UK. That's been thickening up the cloud across western Scotland and Northern Ireland through the day. Those thicker clouds push into the north and west of England, as well as Wales overnight. Bringing some drizzle in places, particularly northwestern hills and coasts. A lot of hill fog and coastal mist around as we start off Wednesday here, but a mild start, cooler towards the southeast, but that's where we see the best of the sunshine first thing and temperatures quickly rising. And in fact, it's blue skies for much of East Anglia, the south and southeast of England, some patchy cloud towards Devon and Cornwall, Somerset as well. West Wales, I think some thicker cloud over North and West Wales and some drizzle over the hills. But it's Western Scotland, Northern Ireland where we see the thickest cloud and some mist and murk, as well as outbreaks of rain and drizzle. The clouds tend to lift and break in many places during the morning. Skies turn brighter, but with the exception of Western Scotland, where it stays generally gloomy and damp throughout much of the day. Eastern Scotland faring well for sunny skies, likewise for England, Wales, Northern Ireland, skies brightening. Sunny spells and turning warmer. A warmer day than Tuesday, and it's going to turn hotter still as that high pressure increasingly dominates the weather. So we start off once again on Thursday with some low cloud and some drizzle for the north and west of Scotland, but it tends to fizzle away and push north through the day as that area of high pressure exerts its influence, and with increasing spells of sunshine during the rest of the week and into the weekend, we're going to see the heat build not just in the south but widely across the UK.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. So Gregg Wallace is in hot water, as is revealed on the front page of The Sun. He says it's war with the BBC. Gregg Wallace was last night at war with the BBC after it claimed 50 more people have made allegations against him. He was yesterday told that he'd been sacked as a MasterChef host following a 9-month misconduct probe. Posting online, he admitted that at times he'd used inappropriate language, but he was the victim of an incredible injustice injustice. He won't go quietly, and pals had said that the stress had led to him being treated for a suspected heart attack at the weekend. Here to give us some more of the facts on this before we discuss it as a panel is showbiz journalist Sarah Louise Robertson. Sarah Louise, thank you very much. So what's going on here? Is Gregg Wallace the victim of a massive injustice, or actually is there no smoke without fire?
Hi there, Patrick. Well, Gregg thinks he's a victim, but I think the 50 further people that have come forward since this investigation was launched last year into Gregg's alleged behaviour would beg to differ. One of them, it's not all women that have come forward. Several men have come forward as well, claiming that they witnessed or heard what they thought was inappropriate behaviour from Gregg Wallace. This is, again, allegations that are being investigated by the BBC, but inappropriate behaviour from Gregg Wallace to members of staff and those taking part on Celebrity MasterChef, which he hosted for 21 years. One of those claims came from a former police officer, a male former police officer, who reported to the BBC in 2023 that he had heard Gregg Wallace make sexually inappropriate comments, and he said that claim was never investigated properly. Again, these are allegations that have to be looked at, and BBC News, the BBC has said tonight that it is going to be looking into these fresh claims. So there are still questions to be answered over Gregg Wallace's supposed alleged behaviour during his time on Celebrity MasterChef, there's also MasterChef itself.
Yeah, there's also presumably questions over the BBC, because it does say in one of the reports that the BBC were supposedly made aware of Gregg Wallace's alleged misconduct about more than a decade ago. So, well, the allegation, I suppose, they did nothing about it, and if indeed, which he would vehemently deny, if indeed there is a problem, that he was allowed to carry on behaving that way for more than a decade.
You've raised an excellent point there, Patrick. We've seen this time and time again, that almost these big stars that the BBC build up, we've seen it with Gary Lineker, we've seen it with Jermaine Jennings, these very, and Hugh Edwards, the biggest of them all, the most scandalous of them all, shall I say. You know, these big stars that the BBC build up, and it's almost like a blind eye's turned to, you know, misbehaviour or alleged inappropriate behaviour, and then when it all comes out, suddenly there's like you know, it smacks of like a cover-up, like a secret cover-up. Now, claims that this behaviour was raised to the former controller of BBC Entertainment, Kate Phillips, back in 2017. She apparently gave Gregg Wallace a ticking off, had a word with him. He was sent on a training course. He talked about this to my former paper, The Mail, back in April. And he was sent on this awareness course, how to talk to young people. And he said from there on, he stayed in his room after filming because he was frightened of socialising with young people in case he said or did the wrong thing. But these new allegations, which have come to light in the last 6 months, have come since then. So after Kate Phillips had her conversation with him, these allegations pertain to 2019, 2022, 2023. So you see, you have to look into this, which the BBC is obviously going to have to do. But it's taken a firm stance now. It's said to have fired him, but Gregg isn't going to go down quietly, as we've seen from his outburst on social media today.
Sarah, thank you very, very much. Really informative. So we've got loads more detail there than I've seen on the front pages. So thank you, Sarah Louise Robertson, showbiz journalist. Well, Steve, that awareness course went well.
Yeah, well, that's why speed awareness courses work, because no one ever speeds afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, although he said he'd stay in his room, one of the allegations is kind of in his room. Maybe he was both staying in there. Look, it splits down two different... You've got the accusations, the more recent ones, which are more worrying and need to be looked into, like the one where he said to some intern he needs help putting his black tie on and then allegedly dropped his trousers, and that's not where you wear your black tie. So if everyone did need help, you'll never get the wingtip collars to just sit under the... Anyway, but there's the other ones where he was just apparently making rude jokes. Kirsty Wart's complaint was that he made a joke of a sexual nature, which is kind of all jokes. I've taught my 3-year-old to do the joke about what kind of bees make milk. So all good jokes.
What is that joke?
Oh, no.
Do you know what it is? Do you know?
No, I don't know if I want to, really.
Well, It's boobies.
Oh, nice. Well done. I'm going to use that.
So my 3-year-old will be getting in trouble in this banter side of it. So you need to know what's going on. There's some more serious things need to be looked at, but the joking needs to have some allowance.
Well, Matthew, look, there are, you know, initially, I think a lot of people were a bit, probably some people are, you know, he's kind of like a barrow boy, kind of market lad that maybe used a bit of uncouth language, and we live in a climate where, you know, oh, nothing's funny anymore, that kind of stuff. But, you know, look, 50 new allegations. This dropping the trousers thing is pretty grim, really, if it's true. And then apparently as well, some BBC producer told the woman who complained about it, you're over 16, you're not being Jimmy Savile. I mean, it's pretty grim, isn't it?
No, it's ridiculously grim, and I just refute the idea that, oh, well, you know, he's working class. Sorry, working class doesn't make you socially thick. I'm working class, and there are things you might say to the lads down the pub that you would not say to Kirsty Walk, and you should know that, you know, because certain jokes are for certain groups and not maybe when you're on the telly. That's as simple as it is. I have very little sympathy, and I worry within all media landscapes, we build people up to feel untouchable and they feel like they can get away with all sorts, which seems to me what's gone on. Whether he's felt too big to fail, they won't sack me, I bring all these ratings and whatever else. That's what it stinks of. And I think I'd have had a heart attack, to be fair, if all the world knew I was a bit of a wrong-un over the last few months. So, you know, I'm not surprised. It's grim, very grim.
Well, I was just paid to say, I mean, Gregg quite literally say that he's not a wrong-un and that it's war. So, so there we go. Yeah, this one's going to run and run, Alex.
Oh, very good, yeah. Well, look, I think the BBC have got a lot to answer for. As usual, they'll just be reporting on themselves probably tomorrow morning. It's just quite embarrassing for them. More failures in their processes and all these bureaucracies that they take so much pride in. Another star has fallen. I just don't know when it's going to end. Who knows when there's going to be the next one?
All right, my team out there have feverishly been picking through not just what's on the front pages, but what's inside tomorrow's newspapers, or indeed today's newspapers if you're watching us in the morning. And apparently, Labour are going to put a man in charge of Labour's LGBTQ women's position. Their officer is going to be a bloke, apparently. Well, let's just reveal all next. I hope not like that, though. Anyway, stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Things have turned a little cooler across Italy, and a brisk northerly breeze will keep that going in Rome. Some heavy rain recently in Croatia, that's clearing away. Small chance of a shower in Madeira, but the Canaries fine, dry and sunny, as is Portugal and most of southern Spain. So there is the chance of 1 or 2 showers near Barcelona. It's fine and sunny across Greece and Turkey. Plenty of sunshine on offer here. Turning dry now in Croatia, as I said. A chance of 1 or 2 showers later this week, though, in Rome. Goodbye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight's Late Edition. I am joined by my wonderful panel, of course. Let's get stuck into one of the stories is on the inside of tomorrow's papers. So yet another row over Labour's stance on gender. Trans activists have put forward a biological man to be the woman's officer for the Labour Party's LGBTQ+ group. The controversial move, backed by the new Trans Rights Alliance, has drawn criticism from gender-critical Labour members who say it breaches party rules and defies a Supreme Court ruling defining woman as biological sex. OK, so, I mean, does seem like maybe that's a slightly backward step, given that we'd had some rulings that this stuff shouldn't really be happening anymore.
Do you know, when we first saw the headline, I thought they'd actually just picked you straight down the middle bloke for it.
Right.
Just like, you want a job done. Get someone in a suit.
Well, there's someone who needs a job at the moment. I don't know. He's sacked,
Do you think he'd be
recently.
Exactly the person for it, Greg?
Could be.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
As the women's officer.
Middle-aged women of a certain age.
Middle-aged women, I am here. I'll tell you what, actually, have we got that Gregg Wallace clip? Can you get it out for me? The one that we nearly had before, that Gregg Wallace about middle-aged women. Because this is apparently that the Labour Party are looking for what? Is it for a women's officer? Is that right? For LGBT?
To me, LGBT Labour, I imagine, are looking for a women's officer. That sounds like...
So LGBT Labour are looking for a new women's officer. So this is Gregg Wallace's pitch for that role.
Handful of middle-class women of a certain age.
That's who he's going to represent. That's who he's there for, fighting the good fight. I don't know. I mean, they don't help themselves, do they, when they do this kind of stuff? Do you think, like, you should probably just pick an actual biological woman for a woman's role, do you think?
It's the first I've heard of it, and I would say it's probably inappropriate, because if you are trans, you can probably talk about the issues trans women may face. I think if you're going for a women's officer role, you've got to be a woman from birth. And I think, therefore, you can talk more broadly about the issues women face. That's what.
Isn't it just mad that we're having this conversation?
Yeah, but I don't think. I mean, you're being very polite because you say I think that it is the case. It's 100% the case. A man can't ever understand women's issues. It's just a matter of fact. We just can't. That's how it is. If I was to magically become a woman tomorrow, I don't think I'd know what it means to be a woman.
And if they're a trans officer and they put someone in who wasn't trans, I'm sure they'd complain. So the logic stands, and they'd agree with the logic half the time.
Yeah. And I think with things, there are facts, right? So gender is a social construct, sex isn't, it's biological. I think the same could be said of race and ethnicity, and I can only imagine the backlash if a white person was elected as LGBT Labour or any other group's race officer, for instance, and it was a white person, not somebody that wasn't white.
Exactly.
And I think that's where we have to maybe look at the facts on this sort of stuff, at the risk of upsetting and actually just not representing people.
But it goes across the reality that the whole alphabet spaghetti of the LGBTQIA+ is too broad.
OK. Yeah, so by the way, sorry, we're looking for a showstopper, right? And here, I don't think it is, but here it is. The Daily Telegraph have revealed what was served as a meal at the banquet between Emmanuel Macron and the King. Selection of pre-dinner canapés, I believe that's French. A selection of tender summer vegetables from the gardens of Le Manoir, French again. Sage, raw tomato, extra virgin olive oil dressing. Supreme of Rouge steak chicken with Norfolk asparagus and tarragon cream, followed by an iced blackcurrant parfait, French again, on a blackcurrant soaked sponge with elderflower jelly, and finished with a café et petit four. The wine there, of course, is some unpronounceable thing that I believe was sparkling wine, British sparkling wine, made by a French champagne company, which begs the question, why are we allowing them to do that? Make our own sparkling wine. Anyway, so go on.
I was just going to say, they own our energy, our nuclear plants. They now own the menu in Windsor Palace. I mean, when does this stop?
Oh, when will it stop? Oh, anyway, right, OK, we're going to finish because I've got to rattle through the papers. I think we're starting with The Independent, are we? The Sun, sorry, well, they've got off the Gregg Wallace stuff, don't they? We know what's in the Sun. Sacked Gregg, it's war. Let's move on to the next one. The Daily Telegraph. Emmanuel Macron is going to blame the Prime Minister for small boats crisis. The Times, they've got the story that basically Labour rules out giving doctors more money. One more, The Independent, Emmanuel Macron, we must shoulder the burden of to keep Europe safe. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night. Take care.
Au revoir.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny weather is on the way for virtually all of us, but overnight it will be gloomy and damp in the northwest. Clear spells elsewhere, turning increasingly warm through the day on Wednesday as high pressure builds in. However, over the top of that high, we do have some weak weather fronts pushing into northwestern parts of the UK. That's been thickening up the cloud across western Scotland and Northern Ireland through the day. Those thicker clouds push into the north and west of England, as well as Wales overnight. Bringing some drizzle in places, particularly northwestern hills and coasts. A lot of hill fog and coastal mist around as we start off Wednesday here, but a mild start, cooler towards the southeast, but that's where we see the best of the sunshine first thing and temperatures quickly rising. And in fact, it's blue skies for much of East Anglia, the south and southeast of England, some patchy cloud towards Devon and Cornwall, Somerset as well. West Wales, I think some thicker cloud over North and West Wales and some drizzle over the hills. But it's Western Scotland, Northern Ireland where we see the thickest cloud and some mist and murk, as well as outbreaks of rain and drizzle. The clouds tend to lift and break in many places during the morning. Skies turn brighter, but with the exception of Western Scotland, where it stays generally gloomy and damp throughout much of the day. Eastern Scotland faring well for sunny skies, likewise for England, Wales, Northern Ireland, skies brightening. Sunny spells and turning warmer. A warmer day than Tuesday, and it's going to turn hotter still as that high pressure increasingly dominates the weather. So we start off once again on Thursday with some low cloud and some drizzle for the north and west of Scotland, but it tends to fizzle away and push north through the day as that area of high pressure exerts its influence, and with increasing spells of sunshine during the rest of the week and into the weekend, we're going to see the heat build not just in the south but widely across the UK.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great